Hey everybody, this is Rich Hanlin with Mortgage Ballers, and believe it or not, yes, that is Kaelee Cornell. And yes, we got to get her to ourselves today before she takes off in her Northern California 100-mile-an-hour job, where she is with EXP and just killing it. As she represents buyers, I'm sure she could take a listing, but her heart is on the buyer side, and she is just putting content after content after content out. What I think separates incredible realtors from okay realtors. Anybody can write a contract, but my best realtors know the contracts, and they know how to make sure that they cover everything that can come up, because everything on that contract is negotiable in some way or form. Mm-hmm. Unless you don't mark it, unless you don't put it on there. Let's talk about this a little bit. And we'll put that graphic up when we edit the video, but I'm going to bring this up.
Okay.
I saw this, Kaelee, negotiated on your behalf. I'm going to read them off, and then I'm going to have you talk about them. But listen to this list. This was crazy. I saw this thing on a Sunday, and I reached right out to her on social media, and she's like, Rich, what do you want? Purchase price, earnest money deposit, appraisal, repairs, credits, closing cost, closing date, possession date. There's a difference, people. Mm-hmm. Inclusions like appliances, etc., home warranty, pest and termite, title insurance, which, by the way, she knows that very well on top of it. HOA fees, escrow, period, meaning the time of escrow. Escrow fees. Got to remember, title and escrow have different fees. They're not the same, even though they might be handled by the same in Northern California, like Placer Title, Stewart Title. Southern California, they're actually separate, but there are separate fees no matter where you're at. Mm-hmm. If there's a lease back, that becomes very important, especially if you're selling a house or need time to get out of something. NHD stands for natural hazard disclosure. A lot of people, I think, take that for granted. It's just a form that they get. I'm like, make sure you read that thing sometimes. Yeah. Especially if you live up there in, what is it? Sun City, Del Webb, where we have the special little frogs that, you can't walk and you sure as heck can't plant anything. I mean,
or if you live in Lincoln, where there used to be like nuclear weapons.
Yes.
It's kind of important.
People forget that so easily. Insurance, which is a big one nowadays. We'll talk about that a little bit. Home inspections, transfer tax, which nobody ever talks about. Government requirements, liquidated damages. Ooh, we're getting to the scary ones now. Roof inspection and notice to perform. Talk to me about all those. I mean, you're doing deals. You're in front of people all day long. That's a lot of items that you've got to actually negotiate. And there's more. We know there's more, but
yeah, there's a lot more. So I think these 24 are kind of the staple pieces, the foundation that most agents are going to be negotiating on every contract. I think historically, we as realtors have tried to make the experience for our clients seem like it's very easy, it's very relaxed. We want them to feel like, what did my realtor even do for me? Because we have thought that we don't want to stress them out with all of these different things. There's so many moving parts in the transaction, right? And it can be emotional, it's overwhelming. The experience in itself, it causes a lot of anxiety. So, but I think that with everything that's happening right now with the NAR settlement, the way that we're transitioning to more transparency, it is in our best interest to really show our clients what we're doing at every point along the way. And that's one of the impetuses that kind of got me to create this list, because I want to show people how hard I'm working for them. I think it's important that buyers understand, especially in this time, why they need to hire a trusted professional who knows what they're doing. Right? I mean, you went through just a list of 24 different items, and I want to ask people who are listening to that, how many things did you say that they don't even know what they are, right? Liquidated damages, what even is that? So it's important that you have someone that you know and trust and like, and who knows the contract well enough that can say, I've got you on this, and my job as your agent is to make sure that you are protected and that you get the best opportunity available. So I have an incredible mentor who spends a lot of time going over every contract page by page every single week. And it's just kind of on a crazy loop so that we can really be experts in the field. And to me, my best role is to be able to take these very complicated topics and paragraphs and disclosures and just explain it simply in a way that people feel like they really understand what they're getting into and what they're signing, because it's a big deal. One
thing we could even add to that list is understanding, the relationship of a a buyer's agreement? What are you really agreeing to now? Because it wasn't a requirement before. A lot of people would do it, but some people are like, oh, you know what, if you don't want to work with me, I'm cool with it, but I'll take you out. And people are just like, eh. But now it's like, it's very serious, you know?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of it. I think that it's going to eliminate a lot of the people who are just curious. They just want to see homes, right? So it's going to create this agreement already before I even talk to someone. It's an understanding that, hey, if you're serious enough to be going and looking at homes, you're serious enough to sign an agreement with me. Now, with the California standard forms, right? California is very much known as the Sue Me state. So we have a lot that goes into our forms. They're very dense. And I think the new forms that are coming out are of the same breath going to be very confusing for a lot of people because most of it's up to interpretation. So what I'm really grateful about as far as EXP, they have created their own standard forms and they make it very simple and they make it very easy. And in addition to your traditional buyer broker agreement, which states that, hey, I as an agent am going to represent you as a buyer. I'm not representing anyone else. And if you buy any of the homes that I show you, basically, you know, you have a right to allow me to represent you. And also I have a right to get paid for the work that I do for you. But that can very much feel like proposing on the first date, right? There's a lot of people who right. Not that that's weird or anything. But you know, there's a lot of people who take leads and people who walk into open houses, and how awkward would it be to, you know, start to establish that rapport and that relationship and then turn around and say, well, hey, if you want to work with me, you got to sign this agreement. So one thing that EXP has done has created a single property buyer agreement, which will allow us to basically say, hey, you're not locking me into 6 months. And this is just, we can sign this so I can show you this one house, right? If you buy that house, then I'll represent you on it. But we can go see this house and maybe you can decide I'm not a good fit for you. And then you're free to go talk to other agents. So we have, it's actually, to me, it creates a lot of room for flexibility still. I think it gives buyers that freedom to feel like I'm not really locked in, but I can still trust that this person can guide me if I go see this house with them and I do love and I do want to end up purchasing it. But I love that we have the freedom and the opportunity to make it simple and to give them two options of like, hey, I know we just met. I want to show you this house. Let's sign the single property agreement. If you want to keep working with me and see other homes, then we can talk about the traditional buyer broker agreement. But for now, let's just get you in so we can see this one. So I love EXP for that reason. And I think the next 6 months, come August 17th, when the full change comes in, there's going to be a lot of confusion and a lot of like, well, what do we do in this situation? So yeah,
it'll be interesting. I think the DRE legal team is going to be hot and heavy as people say, well, you know, I had showed that house. You know, it's like, oh, you not pay attention to all the NAR stuff. You were supposed to have something in place. What? And it's like,
right.
And that's my unfortunate. We have that in the loan side too. It's just people, they go 100 miles an hour and they don't necessarily pay attention to all those things. It's just, I got my license, and then they just kind of go off and do their own thing. I think that's going to separate. It's going to have to. You know, we got to separate the people that are staying in the know, because it's going to cause problems if they don't. We can't have people getting off. Well, we're now asking on the loan side, of course, to make sure we have things in place and understanding. So if they're not there, like, let's have this conversation right now,
right.
Not at closing and things like that. Talk to me about, because just as important, I mean, and I'm seeing this all over because we got Florida and obviously you're California, Northern California. I know you got some fires right now.
Oh, yeah.
Are you requiring people to have an insurance quote when they make an offer, or are you still allowing them to figure that out later? I'm starting to see that a little bit where they're getting it up front so there's no surprises.
Yeah, honestly, the lenders that I work with, which are the lenders you've employed, I always, like, that is the first step that we do, is like, let's get an insurance. And especially if it's in one of those high fire areas. Sure. Honestly, at this point, if there is a listing in a high fire area, I expect that listing agent to get a couple quotes for insurance, because I want my buyer to know what that the first time we go look at the house, right? If my buyer is going to fall in love with the house, I want them to also fall in love with the insurance payment and be okay with it.
Okay.
So that's the last thing I want to come up and say, oh crap, we've gotten this far and now I can't afford insurance and we've wasted everybody's time. So I think it's a duty and an obligation on both sides, depending on where you are. But even in a lot of the suburban areas, because of the insurance crisis right now, and the carriers that are pulling out, we see insurance rising for homes that are in areas that are not even at a fire risk. So I think it's important to make sure that that is one of the very first things that you're doing with a buyer, whether it's right when you look at the home or whether it's when you're putting the offer together, which is what my lenders do. That's the first task that we're kind of taking out, because it is an absolute crisis. There are so many people that are getting priced out of their home due to insurance. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that get, down to the 10th mile and they can't close the deal because they're realizing that their insurance is so high. So yeah, I'm sure you have, and it's crazy. There's fires right now, which it's concerning because fire season historically doesn't really start till September. So we're a little early this year, but yeah, something needs to happen. The California homeowners and prospective homeowners need some relief and need some hope to know that homeownership doesn't need to be so expensive and so complicated.
You keep reinventing yourself as needed. You are not lazy. You do not just do the same old normal stuff. You're always like leading the pack with something new, something crazy, and as well as professional, because I mean, I don't want to say crazy because that's probably not the right word, but you go outside the box. And when I saw that, I had never seen anybody put all the different things that I negotiate for you as a buyer's agent. And I was like, God, I forget how many things there are that a buyer's agent does. And the timing was perfect because I was dealing with the NAR settlement and trying to understand that. And I'm like, I think people need to know that, because why do I want to sign a buyer's agreement? Because of that.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to have somebody who can represent you when any of that, just one of those items can totally backfire your transaction if people don't have the responsibility or knowledge of how to handle those items, negotiate them, things like that.
And even on the reverse end, this is something that I would be bringing to my sellers to show, hey, this is why you might want to consider offering the co-op compensation, right? The concession, whatever terms we're going to be using moving forward.
Blood money.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
Not in California. So, I would be showing it to my sellers and saying, hey, look, these are all the points that they're going to be negotiating on your behalf as well. Like, I'm going to be negotiating on this end, covering you, but this is what they're going to be doing too. And ultimately, most sellers are also going to be buyers again at one point. So do you want to pay me a commission now and pay another commission later? Or do you want to continue the cycle of where you as a seller pay both? And then when I represent you as your buyer's agent, you don't have to worry about that because the home you're going to be buying is going to be covering my commission as well. Mm-hmm. So,
I like
and there's probably some arguments of like, well, either way you're paying double commission, but that's not necessarily true because it's all determined by the seller at this point. And up until August 17th, we're going to have some interesting conversations with buyers about how we get paid. And if the seller isn't offering it, or if I cannot negotiate it on our behalf, then, the buyer is going to be responsible. So there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. And I know that our conversation has covered a lot of different topics, but I think this is a perfect example of how much goes into real estate in general and why it's important to work with people who really understand and know a lot of the different parts of it, not just our one role. Because if somebody had asked me like, oh, why is my payment going up? I thought my loan was fixed. That's something that I can speak educatedly on and say, hey, let's check your tax bill. Like, let's look and see if that's gone up. There's so many moving parts, and it's overwhelming to try to feed this to somebody who's not in this industry all at once. So it's something that I like to do. I call it like taking bites. I try to feed them as much as they can take based off of where we're at. And as things come up, otherwise, it goes in one ear and out the other. And at the end of the transaction, I'm like, hey, remember at the beginning when we talked about this? And they're like, I've learned so much between you and my lender and my and everyone else that, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. So,
hey, I want to ask you, there's going to be people that see this, Kaelee, and they're going to go, oh, I want to talk to Kaelee. And am I okay to put your contact information into Facebook, into the YouTube video, on the podcast?
yes.
I want to get the word out. I want people to know how high that bar is, in my opinion, for representation when it comes to the buyer side, let alone the listing side.
Yeah.
But it's one thing for me to say, it's another thing for me to bring you on the show and say, this is what I'm talking about. They do exist. They're out there. You just have to know where to look, right? Yes. And I've got a couple of agents that I feel the same way about. Some of them have been doing it for years and some of them are newer, but everybody has different backgrounds, but they've earned my respect, and you're definitely one of those. But
thank you.
I would love, as this starts to develop this year with the NAR and how buyers are taking it and what you're finding as well, I know our listeners are going to want more Kaelee time. Because
I promise I'll make it more fun.
Yes, and they're going to see your social media, follow her. I'll make sure I put all of her different social medias out there so that you can be in the know. I will bring up the picture that had the 24 items. We know there's more, but those are 24 that we started talking about, and make sure people have a good idea of what started this conversation, because it did go some different directions, but I was hoping it would, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's the only way they're going to know the Kaelee that I know. And it came shining through, and I appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
You can have a smile and professionalism and be incredible at what you do and not be all stuffy and have that kind of energy. And that's the energy people need to sign up for when they do real estate. That's what you need in your corner.
Yeah.
Writing your contract.
I want to pour this into people. When you're like biting your nails and you're stressed on your couch with anxiety, I want to be the light that's like a breath of fresh air. Like, it's okay. We're going to get through this and you're going to be happy. And I want to reassure you. I want to give you a piece of my light. Share my information. I'm in the greater Sacramento region. So I service Sacramento County, Placer County, El Dorado County. Happy to travel more for the right client. But also, if you want to reach out to me, if this isn't the area you're looking in, I have referral agents that I know and trust and would only refer my friends and family to all across the nation. So please reach out. I can be a resource here or anywhere else.
Kaelee, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
You're professional. You're awesome. You are exactly what I think this industry needs. It's that next generation, and it's reminding us about the best of the best. And that's what this channel is about, and showing people ideas, showing them the energy that even in a tough market is still out there. You're going to do so good in this industry. I can't wait in 5 years when you're on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and you're going to be, the Friday night. And I'm like, I know that girl. Going to be wearing big old sunglasses with ringed in diamonds, But I wouldn't be doing this right.
Oh,
how do we close it out here at Mortgage Ballers? Stay thirsty, my friends.